All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is Tuesday, and you know what that means. Time to do the Tao now on Tuesday Tao. Reading from Dr. Wayne W. Dyer's Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. And that's what we've been doing here on this channel and on this series on Tuesdays now for 67 episodes, if not a few more. But ladies and gentlemen, it has been a fascinating and enlightening, a wisdom-filled, and a totally life-changing journey in discovering the wisdom of the Tao and the thoughts of Wayne Dyer on how we can change our thoughts and in turn change our life. And so we are on the 67th verse of the Tao Te Ching today, ladies and gentlemen, living by the three treasures. Living by the three treasures. What does that mean to you in a spiritual sense? In a spiritual context, what does our tea say today, ladies and gentlemen? It says, every neighbor can be your teacher. Fascinating. And we all know when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And the teachers aren't always people that seem much wiser than us and have things to teach us. Sometimes they're events, and sometimes they are butterflies at the right moment. But when we are ready, then and only then will we notice the teacher. And then, even further so, will we have the diligence to see the lesson and hear the lesson. But, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you for being here and joining me on another episode of Tuesday Tao. And it is, I don't know if it's officially springtime, ladies and gentlemen, but it is feeling like it here. It is nice and warm. So I hope it's a beautiful day wherever you are, and I hope you're well. And I hope you are finding yourself a comfy chair and a nice beverage, a hot tea or a cold beverage, depending what you have going on where you are, ladies and gentlemen. So let's dive right into this and then see where Wayne Dyer goes with his extrapolations, and we'll see what I deem from these, or, we'll see what I gleam from these words. I don't know. 67th verse of the Tao Te Ching begins by saying, all the world talks about my Tao with such familiarity. What folly! The Tao is not something found at the marketplace or passed on from father to son. It is not something gained by knowing or lost by forgetting. If the Tao were like this, it would have been lost and forgotten long ago. I have three treasures which I hold fast and watch closely. The first is mercy. The second is frugality. And the third is humility. From mercy comes courage. From frugality comes generosity. And from humility comes leadership. Now, if one were bold but had no mercy, if one were broad but were not frugal, and if one went ahead without humility, one would die. Love vanquishes all attackers. It is impregnable in defense. When heaven wants to protect someone, does it send an army? No, it protects them with love. And wow, ladies and gentlemen, boom to wisdom and boom to knowledge. That was the 67th verse of the Tao Te Ching. That one really stood out to me. I don't know if it did to you. I bet it did, because I think this is the first verse of the Tao Te Ching since back in the very beginning that really takes on the style of talking about this, this thing called the Tao that cannot be named and shall remain nameless. And when it is named, it becomes the separate things, the mother of the 10,000 things, as Lao-tzu puts it, and not this oneness that the Tao truly is. And so this is just such a great verse that goes into talking about the nature of the Tao and some of the deeper concepts and meanings, such as mercy, frugality, and humility, that make up the ability to live in a Tao-centered way. And so it's so fascinating. I'm, always learning more about this science of lucky people who are manifesting, as a lot of people know it. But there are principles, and, you have to align with certain principles of detaching from the outcome and, not being all of these things, not being, in ego, trying to get ahead. And there's all these different principles that, just like Lao Tzu is mentioning here, he says, I have these three treasures which I hold fast and watch closely: mercy, frugality, and humility, which are principles that could be part of the alignment process that is necessary to become in tune with force, or source, or Tao, in order to begin co-creating or creating our lives on purpose through real magic or manifesting. But from mercy comes courage. Frugality comes generosity. And from humility comes leadership. I think this is the most fascinating part here. If one were bold but had no mercy, and if one were broad but were not frugal, if one went ahead without humility, one would die. Or one would at least surely struggle, ladies and gentlemen. And so it's interesting, for us to have courage, we must start with mercy. And, ponder on each of these words and think about a deeper meaning than what we just take them for at their face value. Mercy and frugality and humility, which is what we talked about last week in so much fashion, and the week before. So living by staying simple-hearted, the 65th verse, and then living by emulating the sea, which was all about humility. And then we lead up to this verse where Lao Tzu is telling us, all the world talks about my Tao, this thing, with such familiarity, like they really know it. And remember the lesson: those who know do not know, and those who do not know might know. I love it. I love it. So be weary of those who tell you that they know all the answers. What folly, he says, with these people that talk about the Tao with such familiarity. The Tao is not something found at the marketplace. And this is what I kind of talk about when I'm talking about seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment. It's like this happiness, this enlightenment thing, this greater awareness and this ability to create different experiences for ourselves in our lives, better experiences, hopefully, higher quality of life, through on purpose ability that we create through a greater awareness. And so this comes from courage, but this also comes, it's not something you find at the marketplace. You don't just go get it and then go get it when you run out of it. That's why it's something you have to build within you. When you have it within you, then you're not searching outside of you to get it. And so if you have love within you, then you don't ever have to go looking, striving out there to receive it. But if you do not have it within you, then whenever it is lost, you must go somewhere else to get it. So if happiness, if joy, if peace, if comfort is not created from within you, but you get that from things out here in the world, then whenever you run out of it, you're going to have to continue striving to get things that are out here in the world. And this is when you become very attached to physical reality and have a hard time living a spiritual, a Tao-centered life, as we're talking about here on Tuesdays. But I call it a lot of names. Like, for me, the Tao is life energy, life force, God, this universal force that is blowing the wind and beating our hearts and breathing our lungs and doing all the things that it seems as if it is doing nothing at all, but it is leaving nothing undone, ladies and gentlemen. So you don't find this at the marketplace or passed on from father to son, but I will add here to the words of Lao-tzu that it is within the marketplace, and it is also within the father and the son. He continues, it is not something gained by knowing. So remember, those who know do not know. Do not know, might know. Might have a clue or something. If you know that you do not know, then do you know? These are good questions. So this is not something gained by knowing or lost by forgetting, talking about knowledge. Wisdom. So this is more than wisdom. This goes beyond intellectual knowledge. Because if it were like this, then this force would have been lost and forgotten long ago. But as we know in our series in the Hermetica and learning about the ancient lost wisdom of the pharaohs about this force, this God force that is within all traditions and spoken about differently for many different people. Even science has its own ways of describing this thing that most people would take from a spiritual perspective. But nevertheless, as Lao-tzu said, all the world talks about my Tao. And it's this thing that we are trying to align with and understand and, come closer to. Coming closer and trying to connect to what I would call the force. There's many different names for that. A lot of people call it God. But, so you don't find this at the marketplace, which is important point. You don't just go and get it for free. This takes work and diligence. And you must have, tenets and morals or rules or philosophies about the way that it is that you go about your life. As Lao-tzu describes it here, he says, I have 3 treasures, which I hold fast and watch closely. He has these 3 philosophies, which is mercy, frugality, and humility. And out of those things, you can then have courage and generosity, which is what we really want. And then leadership by showing people the way. And if you do not have any of these, then you will lead to much struggles in life. And then the last of all of lessons is the most important one about love. Love is also, I think, something that is indescribable, much like the Tao. And when it is described, it negates its true power, because the Tao that remains nameless is the eternal Tao. The love, maybe, that remains nameless is the eternal love. But love vanquishes all attackers, it says. It is impregnable in defense. So I've heard, stories of people going in foreign countries and things, and when they had themselves in dangerous situations, there are people that seem to, this is what I'm getting at about manifesting. There is a science of lucky people. And I think love and having because we resonate frequency fields, or we generate fields, electromagnetic fields, that are resonating at certain frequencies, and it affects the environment around us and those around us. And so maybe there was a way, if we can be in this love-centered state, that there is some kind of magical way to cancel out some, not all. I mean, you got to be real careful. We're not telling people to go into a war zone and try to be a bubble of love. It's just, I think there was a lesson one time I forget which tradition, religious tradition or spiritual tradition it comes from, but the leader said to let go of your worries. You know, the guru, might have been Muhammad, but he told his followers, he said, just, you got to let go of all of your physical worries. And let go of fear and trust. You know, trust in God or Allah or Tao, Source, Ra, Atum, whatever it be, ladies and gentlemen. Trust in this thing that you will be taken care of. And so, you know, next time they came to meet and spend time with the guru or the master or whoever, you know, whatever the name was for this spiritual leader. And see, because of this lesson, none of them tied up their horses. And so after the time they had spent there, they all came out of the tent or, you know, whatever it was, and all their horses had ran off. And the leader said, oh my goodness, I don't know exactly what he said, but you get the point, ladies and gentlemen. You can't take these, you have to, you know, you can't take this idea of love will keep you alive, or love is an impregnable in defense and it vanquishes all attackers. This is a philosophical, spiritual, metaphorical, change your life, change your thoughts, change your life kind of a lesson, which has truth to it. But it doesn't mean you take it the wrong way, like, you know, a simple physical minded person would do and say, oh, you're telling me I can go out in a battle and radiate a frequency of love mindset and it will, you know, not allow, it will dissolve bullets before me. Don't take this the wrong way, ladies and gentlemen. Don't remember. So the master said after the lesson, do not have fear and trust, but still remember to tie up your horses. Okay, so we'll just put it simply that way. Still remember to tie up your horses. But then, you know, once you've made sure of the things that you need to make sure of, we're not walking out into freeways here because we're spiritual masters and love will protect us, ladies and gentlemen. Remember to tie up your horses. But there is truth, especially when you look at the science of frequencies and electromagnetic fields generated by the heart and the brain and the body during different emotional and mental states, you know, alpha, beta, brainwave states. And okay, anyways, Lao-tzu here finishes, when heaven wants to protect someone, does it send an army? So when the universe saves, you know, miraculously, when people are miraculously alive and saved from things that do not make sense, this is what we're talking about. No, it protects him with love, Lao-tzu says in this translation. Now, such a fascinating 67th verse of the Tao. I hope you're getting value, ladies and gentlemen, because we're about to dive into what Dr. Wayne Dyer says about this 67th verse of the Tao Te Ching in his little essay titled Living by the Three Treasures. Because this is really the challenge of this verse here, is to have mercy, frugality, and humility. Wayne Dyer begins by saying, you're being invited to change your life by seeing it through the prism of this ancient verse of the Tao Te Ching, which instructs you on the three things you need for a Tao-styled life of success, or living the way, or not missing the mark. I'm starting to love that translation now. And so, living this Tao-centered way, this aligned, force-connected way that will allow for a life of success, which is, once again, manifesting the science of lucky people. Mercy, Wayne Dyer continues, is the name of the game. It's not exactly what he said. He said, mercy is the name used here for the first treasure. So take notes if you'd like. This is a good section for that. But additional terms such as compassion, good-heartedness, love, kindness, and charity have been employed in other translations. So, you know, if you'd like to, it's good, especially for as we've learned about the art and the power, the magic of constant contemplation, it's good to check out different translations of the works of Lao-tzu. And so sometimes in place of mercy, you will find compassion, good-heartedness, love, kindness, and charity. And Wayne continues, you've very likely been warned, no, you've very likely been weaned on a model of achievement that's measured by accumulation, accomplishment, and the acquisition of power and influence over others. But remember our lesson about self-actualization or self-actualized individuals is the third thing is we have no investment in power over other people. So you're independent of the good opinion of others and the bad opinion. I think they said good because that implies way more than the bad. You're independent of their good opinion. And then you're detached from the outcome and you have no investment in power over other people. So you can take the three treasures, mercy, frugality, and humility, and then being detached from the outcome, independent of the good opinion, and having no investment in power over other people. These are keys to a higher quality of life, to more success in life, to experiencing more joy, more peace, more satisfaction, and becoming what Maslow described as a self-actualized individual. But I haven't read much Abraham Maslow. I think that's just how Wayne Dyer always referenced that bit. So I believe I'm getting that right, though, ladies and gentlemen. I know I'm getting Wayne's part right. I'm just, the names that he references from the authors that he read, sometimes I get those a little off, but that's just fine. Now we're continuing here because we've usually been taught in our Western society that success and achieve, and what we know as success in life and deem people successful for is accumulations of things, or gathering a lot of money or a lot of status or a lot of achievements and having power or control in their life, which isn't the worst thing. It can't help but, ladies and gentlemen, that's not the secret. That's why the Tao is teaching us to change our thoughts, because there's a different perspective that can allow for much more success. And it seems very paradoxical or opposite to the way that we commonly know it. And a lot of this book has been about just that. And so if you've missed any of it, be sure to go back and check out this series. But the acquisition of power and influence. So successful people are usually considered, this is Wayne continuing, to be narrowly focused on their own goals, oblivious to anything but getting to the top, and ruthless in preventing anyone else from getting what they're after. Lao-tzu, however, says that the first and most important treasure is what true courage stems from, not from a heartless and callous attitude. He even tells you that boldness without mercy is a prescription for death. So you're encouraged to think of others first by being willing to serve and exhibit kindness and love, ladies and gentlemen, even towards your enemies. Now this, I'll add, may be a greater challenge, but with the greater challenges come the greater rewards. Maybe there might be a paradoxical Tao verse to that one too. But even towards instead of seeking external indicators to prove that you're successful. Shakespeare speaks of the first treasure in The Merchant of Venice. He says, the quality of mercy, such a great line. The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven. But mercy is above this sceptered sway. It is enthroned in the hearts of kings and in the minds of men. I forget how the rest of that goes, but it's such a great one. It's talking about mercy and the power of mercy enthroned in the hearts of kings, which is a very, because we would think of that as the opposite. We would think of kings as merciless and merciless without mercy. I just got that. I never thought of that really. But it is above this sceptered sway. There was a deep meaning to that. The great playwright, Wayne continues, then reminds us with his next lines why Lao-tzu made mercy the top priority of the three treasures. It is an attribute to God himself, and earthly power doth then show likest gods, when mercy seasons justice. When mercy seasons justice, ladies and gentlemen. So deep lines to ponder from Shakespeare and from Lao-tzu and from Wayne Dyer. I give him about a B plus, The master. That's always a great joke. So how do you think he did on those lines? About a B plus. So his timing was a little off, maybe, or when mercy seasons justice. Wow, it's getting windy out there, ladies and gentlemen. Blowing some empty little tiny plastic planters around, but all right, let's fix it real quick. I'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Grab yourself another beverage. But when mercy seasons justice, think about this. All right, so mercy, compassion, and kindness are all attributes of this quote unquote Tao or God or source or force, or harmony in nature is another way that the Tao is described. Harmony and nature, or maybe the harmony we see in nature. But mercy, compassion, kindness, these were all different translations for this first treasure, or this first key to enlightenment, maybe. It's fascinating. Lao-tzu saw, Wayne continues, this truth many centuries, even before Shakespeare did, and centuries before we did, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe. The second treasure is frugality, or what was referred to in other translations as economy, moderation, thrift, or simplicity. Now, frugality and moderation don't generally spring to mind when those at the pinnacle of achievement are described. However, according to Lao-tzu, being satisfied with less rather than more results in rather than more results in great generosity. So being satisfied with less, whether it be results or accumulation of things or status or power, being satisfied with less in our lives, rather than being satisfied with more, results in generosity, a willingness to give. And generosity is one of the keys to being successful, being able to manifest that which it is you want for yourself in your life, being a lucky person, quote unquote. What other people would call is just lucky. But it's fascinating. I'm getting a lot out of this, and I bet you are too, ladies and gentlemen. If you are, smash the like button and leave me a comment and let me know. And share this with somebody who is like-minded. So be willing, Wayne says, to take only what you need and don't accumulate or hoard. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I literally am in a one-bedroom, tiny square footage apartment. So if it looks like I have too many things, well, I don't have a lot of room for things. So if I had a bigger space, I might not. It makes me wonder, because I do feel like I have too much stuff. Talking about this, this thrift, this frugality, this being satisfied with less rather than more, makes me wonder, But see, I'm sure we all ponder on those kind of things in our own lives. And so this is why it's good to take the advice of Wayne Dyer and Lao-tzu and the Tao and constantly contemplate and begin to try to apply the wisdom of the Tao to our lives so that we can increase the quality of our life. And so the less attached you are to your stuff, the easier it is to be generous. The more you cling to it, the more you feel you need, and the less concerned you are with the welfare of others. So I often wonder if the neighbors think I'm yelling or having an argument or something. But if you can tell, I'm sometimes passionate about this stuff, and it means a lot. I mean, if more people would talk about this and think about this and openly speak and compare their own ideas and ways that they're trying to do this in their own life, we might have some societal evolution. The third treasure necessary for a successful life is humility, Wayne says, which other translations refer to as not presuming to be above nature. That's a deep one. Not presuming to be above nature. And then daring not to be ahead of others, not always trying to be number one. Humility. From this quality, Lao-tzu reminds us, comes true leadership that radiates Tao energy. So this is when, I'm thinking of because some leaders are just appointed their position and not many people really want to follow. And then there are these other leaders that were never really appointed. They just kind of naturally had people flock to them because of their nature. And I don't think flock's the right word. Like people harmonized and were drawn to them because they radiate this Tao energy or this God force, this alignment that you will, there's people in life that you seem to just be drawn to and that you trust. And you're like, wow, that individual. And these are the kind of people that have this third quality of humility and not presuming to be above anyone and not daring, not always trying to be number one. And this is the paradoxical thing. I think this was in a verse a couple of days ago or last week is, he who does not strive to be number one gets ahead. And it's a paradox, ladies and gentlemen. But from this quality comes the true leadership that radiates Tao energy. Often our perception of strength, power, or triumph is influenced by the yang, masculine qualities of arrogance. And see, it's funny, he doesn't talk about the masculine and feminine qualities and aspects of reality that tie into all of this understanding. So that's a deeper subject in its own that is also a facet of understanding the keys to manifesting, ladies and gentlemen. But he mentions it here shortly for some reason. Our perception of strength, power, and triumph is influenced by the yang, masculine qualities of arrogance, loftiness, and self-importance. And so when you change the way you think, remember, change your thoughts, change your life, change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, boom. So when you change the way you think about enlightened leadership, I'll start by saying when you change the way you think about leadership into the possibility of enlightened leadership existing, you can discover what genuinely successful people have learned before you. That is, that we're all instruments for Tao or God or source or force or whatever you call. Even Wayne says it this time. Thank you, Wayne. I say that every time in my videos, but he says it this time. He goes, that is, that we're all instruments for Tao or God or whatever you call the energy that writes the books, delivers the speeches, makes the life-saving discoveries, and so on. Humility is akin to surrendering to a force greater than your ego. Giving credit to that source and being grateful for any wisdom and influence that it's given you by that power. That last paragraph there was super powerful, ladies and gentlemen. It's almost one that I'd like to highlight and read often. I'm going to read it again. It's just one of the most powerful paragraphs I've read in a long time, and it links to a lot of very deep spiritual concepts that are very important to constantly contemplate and understand. Paragraph begins by saying, often our perception of strength, power, and triumph is influenced by the yang masculine qualities of arrogance, loftiness, and self-importance. So when you change the way you think about leadership into enlightened leadership, you can discover what genuinely successful people have learned before us. That is, that we are all instruments of God or Tao, or whatever you call the energy that writes the books and delivers the speeches and makes the life-saving discoveries, and so on. Humility is akin to surrendering to a force greater than your ego and giving credit to that source and being grateful for any wisdom and influence that it's given to you by that power. So be humble, stay low, and be a generous, grateful leader. Boom, ladies and gentlemen. That's so powerful. It's so good considering last week's lesson about being humble and staying low, emulating the ocean or the sea. This is just so powerful. In the previous verse that taught us, don't be afraid to say, I don't know. Be humble and stay low. And we will be granted a power and an influence of wisdom and direction in our lives from the source that we are all instruments of when we can realize it and create an alignment with that force. This is, I don't know, this one's just hitting me real deep, ladies and gentlemen. I know you're probably loving this. So let's continue into the last couple sections here of these recommendations. Wayne says, here are some ways to apply these three treasures to your daily life and how we can do the Tao now. Number one, live in harmony with the myriad manifestations of the Tao. The key to living in harmony is compassion and mercy. You're not in competition with anything or anyone, ladies and gentlemen. So don't feel as if you must defeat another person or compare yourself on any level. Extend mercy and compassion towards every form of life, including yourself. When you radiate love and respect for all beings, you'll be aligned with force, with source, with nature, with the Tao, which will protect you as if you were a baby in the arms of a loving mother. I like how he finishes that little bit. That was living in harmony with the manifestations of the Tao. Number two here, and how we can apply these ways of these three treasures into our life. See the hidden strengths of simplicity and humility in those whom you may have previously judged to be weak or ineffective. Those who practice frugality and refuse to hoard or engage in conspicuous consumption deserve to be viewed as strong examples of how to guide others. Whereas those who speak and act forcefully while stockpiling more and more goods are not harmoniously or in harmony with the Tao, or with the force, or with God, or with this energy that is life essence, that can allow us to have a greater quality of life, much more peace, much more joy. I mean, this bit about, the attachment to things. There's a great line, I don't know if it was Lao-tzu or Wayne Dyer, whoever. It was a great quote that said, your possessions possess you. And so the more possessions you have, the more possessed you become by them, the more entrapped and controlled, and it changes your experience. And there's probably much more struggle, I would think, rather than peace. But That's a different, well, no, it's on the subject. But anyways, actions, those who speak and act forcefully while stockpiling more and more goods are not in harmony with the Tao. Moreover, such individuals' actions tend to contribute to more dissension. And as Lao-tzu reminds us here, those who go ahead with boldness and without difference will die. Those who go ahead with boldness, without humility, it says difference here. And I hasten to add, Wayne says, will lead others to their demise as well. That's a powerful point too. Those of us who go and follow those going ahead boldly with no mercy, we will follow them to our own demise. As you notice, examples of simplicity and humility in those who are in positions to lead make every effort to emulate the same qualities in your own daily interactions, ladies and gentlemen. And finally, the reason you want to get this book for yourself, to put it on your shelf, if the rest of this hasn't been reason enough already, ladies and gentlemen, it's powerful. I have the book linked in the description below the video. This is Do the Tao Now. And at the end of each of these chapters, he gives us a way that we can practically apply the spiritual, philosophical, life-changing wisdom, thought-changing wisdom into our lives today. He says, do the Tao now. Choose a conversation in which you can practice the three treasures by using an economy of words, so the frugality, while attempting to make a point in conversation. For instance, stop yourself after a moment or so. This is a great challenge for me because I talk a lot. Anybody who knows me knows that. Oh, here we go. Chase is rambling again, but you know, we got to be nice and listen because he does actually say some interesting things sometimes if he stays on point. I'm kidding. Hopefully you don't think that about me, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you're getting value. But while attempting to make a point in conversation, for instance, stop yourself after a moment or so and use your talking time to listen, even if it's to yourself, before the other person responds. You'll be employing all three of Lao-tzu's treasures at one time. You'll have mercy for the person with whom you are conversing by being frugal with your words and humbly refusing to be ahead or above your conversational partner. Wow. Boom, ladies and gentlemen. Boom to wisdom. Boom to the wisdom of the Tao. And boom to knowledge. That was powerful. Big round of applause. That one was one of the more powerful verses I've gone through with you here in a long time, ladies and gentlemen. So I really hope that hits you as hard as it hit me. I hope you're picking up what is being put down, because this is life-changing wisdom. Even if you just get a little bit of it. But even the Do the Tao Now this week was just powerful in its practicality and its relation into being able to actively emulate and perform the wisdom of this verse, these three treasures, which were humility, frugality, and what was the other one? See, I'm already forgetting. Because those two stuck out to me. Mercy was the other one. I guess mercy isn't one of the things that I ever struggle with. But being humble and frugal is. And so those are the ones that I need to work on. But maybe I never thought of mercy like we described it today, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe I always linked it to some sort of a combat sense in having mercy. But that was powerful, ladies and gentlemen. And I really appreciate you for being here and joining me. If you're here during the premiere, a big thanks to you. I love and appreciate all of you, always sending you good thoughts, because you support me and give me the purpose and the reason, you know, the spark, you could say, to continue doing this, because there is a lot of times that back in the day when I didn't really get much support. I mean, you know, there was certain few individuals, there were times when it was tough to know, like, who am I to say these things? And, should I continue? What is the purpose of this really? And I always had to go back to like, all right, maybe if just one person begins to discover this, it can really make a change because, like you have to be ready, like we've talked about before. If you're not ready, then it won't really matter. You'll just hear a bunch of ramblings. You'll just hear a bunch of ramblings, ladies and gentlemen. But when you are ready, it is here. Hopefully, I'm putting it down in a way that honors Lao-tzu and that honors Wayne Dyer, that honors all the authors and poets from the wisdom of the ages and Hermes in this series and Thoth, and hopefully it honors you and helps you, ladies and gentlemen. So once again, thank you so much. I love and appreciate all of you. Be sure to expand the description, and I'll show you exactly what that's like so you can get yourself a landscape painting or some C60 Purple Power, which is also sitting on the table over there. I think I got the olive oil because that's good, but the flavor is kind of intense. So if the flavor of the olive oil is too intense for you, get the avocado oil, or if that's too weird, the most mild one is the coconut oil, ladies and gentlemen. But let us share the screen real quick here. Green button, there we go. Click, click. So you will see here, hopefully, my YouTube channel. We're up to 427 subscribers on 304 videos, ladies and gentlemen. So we finally eclipsed this side over that side. I usually had a lot more videos than subscribers, so thanks so much once again. And these are my videos here below, and you will see, let's click on last week's Tao video, see if we can mute it there. And down here below the video, there is the description. And see, in that description, it says show more. And then you can expand that. And so it looks a little different on your phone, but just about the same thing. You'll go below the video, hit more, and right here you can download and listen to The Wisdom of the Ages by Wayne Dyer with a free Audible trial. I'll have to see if my Amazon Associates thing is still up, because if you don't get enough qualified sales for a while, it's just a flat link that doesn't do anything for me, but it does do something for you still. This is why I leave them there, ladies and gentlemen. And here's a link to the book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. So you click that, boom. This will take you to Amazon so you can buy this book. A little different cover than the one I got, but so there are the links in the description, as well as a link to my Etsy shop and C60 Purple Power, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully that screen that I just shared doesn't interfere with this video for purposes of teaching and commentary and expanding the mind, ladies and gentlemen. So, that said, remember to seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, ladies and gentlemen. Seek to discover the hidden wisdom of the ages and the hidden mysteries of history. And remember that happiness is the way. There's no way to happiness because it is the way. It is the activity that we have to bring to life. So the goals that we've been telling ourselves, oh, I'll be happy when I get there, those become irrelevant when we can bring happiness to life. And then the entire journey can be wonderful. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you so much. It's worth saying it that many times. And we will see you tomorrow on Wednesday Wisdom and the lost wisdom of the pharaohs. Be the change you want to see. Be the example in the world. And try to emulate the three treasures of the Tao. All right. Love you, ladies and gentlemen.